had a website, but it was almost like a vanity project back then. Now it is like an entrance fee to have a business.
Good. Hey, I wanted to let you know that the Google guarantee, the Google ads, man, I'm getting 12 to 16 calls a week.
My goal is at least do 10 to 15 more years, grow it up, sell it for 40, 50 million, maybe more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Titan Talks. My name is Jonathan Stern. I'm an engineer at Topline Pro, but once a week, I have the honor of sitting down with successful home service entrepreneurs to discuss their journeys to success. Today is April 10th, 2024, and my guest is Callie Sudbrook, owner of the Beachside Interiors Design and Remodeling, a remodeling company that specializes in transforming residential and commercial spaces in the Newport Beach area into stunning fitness and wellness escapes. That means garage gyms, home office gyms, custom sauna and cold plunge recovery suites, backyard fitness sheds, and more. Callie, thanks so much for taking the time and welcome to Titan Talks.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
To get started, we'd love to hear about your journey into remodeling. How'd you get started?
That's a loaded question. It wasn't the normal trajectory, let's just say that. So I actually just went to college like everybody else, went to undergrad for kinesiology because I thought I wanted to be some sort of strength coach for athletes or a personal trainer. Then I went back and got my master's in the same thing, kinesiology. I started teaching at my alma mater, working at another local university nearby that was like a D1 university. Worked there for 12 years and I was, worked my way up the ranks. And then one day, it was kind of around COVID when everyone was questioning things. And I thought, this doesn't really spark the same amount of joy that it used to in my life. And so ended up quitting. Didn't really have a backup plan, which was like not the norm for me. And we had been remodeling our house in the process the previous like 5 years. And so I took that experience and I thought, I really love creating these spaces. And our friends started asking me, hey, can you do my bathroom? And so I thought, like, I'm super handy. I really love doing this. And so I sat for my licensure exam and I, got bonded and insured and all the things and opened my business. So I went from a fitness director to a remodeling contractor and designer.
You said not having a backup plan was unusual. Say a bit more about that and what convinced you that this was the right thing?
Well, my whole life I had worked like 2, 3 jobs at one time, all throughout college. I was a personal trainer. Then I had another like real job that was paying the bills. And then even when I got a salaried position at UC Irvine, I was working odd jobs teaching and doing other things. So I was always juggling a ton of things and it was like a lot of fun. It was energizing for me because I was busy. But I think once I kind of slowed down during COVID and thought, like, what do I really want to be putting my energy into? It was more of a creative endeavor. It was more of actually solving problems that people were having. And a lot of problems that people have, like, on the daily are just like, how do I utilize my home to the best of my abilities, with the space and square footage that I have? How do I make it beautiful? I want to be here. We're, potentially staying indoors in our homes more often than we used to. What does that look like for me to enjoy my space? So it just kind of became like a driving force for me to want to, solve that problem for people, that pain point.
Do you have any family or friends in this industry, or are you the first?
So my wife's father is a kitchen and bathroom remodeler on the East Coast. And so I think that kind of spurred a lot of like the mental talk that was going on in my brain for like, years prior to me making this decision, because I saw how he remodeled our kitchen when we first moved into this house. And I thought, like, this seems really fun. Like, I could do it. And so I kind of like helped him a little bit. And then once he left, I mean, he had to go back to Maryland. So I started just tackling like smaller and smaller small projects at first, getting bigger and bigger, to where I had remodeled every room in our house. And so, and got obviously better in the process. And so he was sort of the catalyst to that. But then I started meeting other people to kind of help me along the way. And now, I mean, God, I have like a whole network of mentors that like, you name it, woodworking, electrical, plumbing, I can reach out to them, like, text or phone call and be like, hey, how do I approach this? And they're like right there to help me.
What's your favorite part of the process?
I want to say the design because it's like I get to be creative. I mean, that was my job as a fitness director and as a personal trainer. It's like someone comes to me and they're like, "Hey, my shoulder's hurting, but my kid's getting bigger. I want to be able to like throw the ball with them. I want to, be active." So we would go through like what's called a needs analysis, and I would kind of reverse engineer what they could versus couldn't do, and then with the goal of like, "Hey, we're going to get this better. We're going to remodel your body," right? So it's kind of the same approach in a weird way. It's like, okay, tell me what's not working. I want to solve those problems for you, but not just solve them. I want to make it better than it was before.
And you said you were working on your own house 4 years, 5 years, right? In the run up to taking this on full time. Is that still something that you do? Are you constantly turning over your house, thinking of new ways to improve it?
I mean, yes and no. Like we haven't really done anything, any like hardcore updates for probably about a year and a half since, I started my business 2 years ago. But because I started specializing in fitness spaces, my wife and I are actually creating a fitness shed in our backyard that's going to serve as sort of like a showcase room for my clients in the local area to come check it out, see what equipment we've got, see if that's a suitable thing for their home. So it's kind of touching all the things that we need it to be.
What does your wife do for work?
She's a police officer, so she was
Oh,
able to sort of pick up the slack a little bit, working some overtime while I built up the business and became profitable.
what sort of role has she played as you've gotten it off the ground?
More like the silent partner type where it's like she knows what I'm doing. She is behind me 100%, but she's like, I don't want to know about any of the business stuff because it just like it's like too much for her brain. She's like, I need to focus on other stuff. So it's great. Like I share with her what I'm doing and she's like, that sounds good to me. Like I trust you. And so, I kind of recently I was like, look, like this is how much I have in my profit account. This is how much I have in my, ongoing expenses account. This is how much I have in my, all the things, and she's like, wow, like you really are doing this.
Cool. Let's go back to the early days. As you were
Yeah.
working to get the business off the ground, any tips and tricks that really stand out in your mind that enabled growth in the early days, got the word out, that you might be able to pass along to some of our listeners?
For sure. So two things for me, I mean, might not apply to universities. And so working well with them in my former career and having that built that trust just relayed right into my new role. And they were like, oh my God, if I'm going to get something done in my house, it's got to be Callie. So there was that of like nurturing those relationships. And I didn't burn any bridges when I left. It was, hey, I'm going to miss you guys because, it was my family for 12 years. And so the first piece is just the network aspect. I think some people like overthink networking. Like, oh, like what do I do? It's so complicated. It's like, no, you just, you're good to people. They're good back to you, and foster those and check in with them. How are their families doing, and all that good stuff. So
Yep.
that's a really big piece. And then the second thing I would say is I had a coach right at the start, kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to do as I left UCI. And she was like, we identified the crucial values that I had in my life. And part of that, she was telling me, like everything doesn't have to be perfect right away. So she said, messy action is better than inaction. So you know what? I've kind of just taken that and gone with it. So I started off with a crappy website, then I upgraded to Top Line Pro, and it's like everything has not been great or perfect all at the start, but it gets there eventually.
You always need to be moving. You need to be
Yeah,
doing things and taking action, producing information, moving forward. Yep.
exactly. Constant change.
I wanna ask the reverse or the opposite now, which is any big mistakes that you made in the early days?
Um, that's hard to answer because like I look at mistakes as like they were just a learning opportunity, right? I want to say the biggest one has to do with estimating, and I think that's what a lot of us struggle with in the trades is just I was barely covering my costs. Like I wasn't, including, money for profit. I wasn't including overhead expenses. I wasn't including any of that. And I honestly just didn't know what I was doing. So that was the biggest mistake, to be honest. But I remedied that by attending a course about estimating, which was like way too expensive for me at the time. But I'm like, I got to do it. Like this is clearly not working. So ever since then, I did a 180 with my business, and it's been probably one of the best decisions I've made.
How has your approach to estimating changed?
Like I said, just like actually including what is my time to go and run those errands and pick up materials and return materials. It's like we don't want to pay ourselves sometimes for those like sort of errandy type things, but we have to, or else we're gonna get like so bogged down. And then it starts to kind of tip the scales. It's like, wow, I'm doing so much for this client, and they don't even realize because they're not paying me for it. So naming those things, those actions, and then associating a cost to it, and then making sure that you include those in your estimate.
So I imagine like same job a few years ago is now you're now charging a little bit more for that these days. So that you cover your costs and have a little profit at the end of it.
Yes.
Have you noticed, has there been any decrease in number of customers willing to pay that amount? Have you had a harder time closing jobs, or is it mostly the same?
Yes and no. So I've lost the customers that were only willing to pay X amount, but I've gained new customers, which like you hear that again and again. It's like my brother's a barber. He had to change his prices from 45 to 55, and some people didn't come back, but he gained some new clients who are just willing to pay that. So that's kind of just how business goes.
Right. Let's turn to business today, Callie. Tell us how is it going? How many jobs on the schedule? How many employees do you have?
It's going very well compared to when I was barely breaking even or barely covering costs. Like I said, I've got an account for everything, so I can see like how I'm doing in all of these aspects of business, from operating expenses to payroll to profit. I feel really comfortable with that, and I have a nice system, and that's what I was lacking up front. I don't have any employees yet, although I do source things out to sort of like a local design co-op. So if I need let's say like a 3D rendering, I can get by on my own with a couple, things of software that I use, but it's not the best, and I want it to be like visually stunning. So I'll kind of outsource for that. I'll outsource for photography. I sub out a lot of my jobs for drywall if it's a really large drywall job, or if it's, electrical or plumbing. I'll do the finish, trim work for electrical or plumbing, but sometimes the rough-in stuff, it's like, that's way over my head. I'm going to let the pros do it. So I have like a team, I have a lot of help, but I don't have employees on like payroll yet other than myself.
I have to say, it sounds like a massive undertaking for one person. How do you manage it all?
Workflow is there's a lot of AI actually that I'm implementing, and so thankfully on Topline Pro with you guys, I can use AI to help write blog posts and stuff, which has been like huge because it takes a lot of time and effort to write those things. So just having it sort of automated, but the ability to edit it is really nice. And then what else? I mean, there's just so many other like things of software. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, like editing software for Instagram if I want to post a reel. There's like design software that I use and things like that. So I was using House Pro, and I switched to a new software recently where they specialize in actually gym equipment design. So like I was kind of limited with House Pro, for example, because they didn't have all the equipment that I wanted to add into, like, let's say a garage gym. But with this new one, Design 5, I think it's called, I can pull from the Rogue website. I can pull from Life Fitness or Hammer Strength, and I can put that exact piece of equipment in someone's garage or home gym or whatever. So it's been really nice to like, I don't know, speed up that process a little bit. Still obviously takes time though.
How many jobs on the schedule, Callie?
I have 3 right now, and then I have 5 sort of in like the waiting room, like I like to call it, because it's like their schedule is uncertain. My schedule is a little bit uncertain. Once you go out like 3 months, it's like I think I can get to you by July, but like we'll see how these 3 jobs line up, you know?
What's the primary way that you found each of those clients? Is it from your network that you had the last 10, 12 years, or are there other ways that you're getting new customers?
I think primary is definitely referrals. So, people, my former clients or my former colleagues are referring me to their people, and then that way, like my network just grows. So, for example, I just did a job at Chalk Performance in Costa Mesa, which is a large commercial gym, and the guy that hired me, I worked with him like 10 years ago in like a different place, different capacity. We were both fitness directors. And so he was like, oh my God, Callie's got to do this job. So I came in, did the job. Well, now because of that one job, I've had 4 other gym owners hit me up to be like, hey, I saw what you did at Chalk. Can we talk? So now my network has expanded by 4 or 5 people. So every single job has been like that.
Are you primarily in Newport Beach, or are you going all around Southern California?
Yeah, I started kind of going anywhere and everywhere, but like then I started realizing not everyone's my client and not every area is my area because let's face it, like traffic in California is brutal. So, I mean, I would like to go everywhere and be everywhere at all times, but it's just not really feasible. So Costa Mesa, I've just found is like a hotbed for gyms. It's a hotbed for the people that are in my network. The university that I used to work at is like right, in the city next door. So it's like there's just a lot of opportunity in that area. There's also a decent amount of money, so that doesn't hurt. So it's sort of like a perfect storm of all things. Plus, it's right by the beach. So I mean, how could I not want to work right by the beach?
Walk us through your decision to get a website. There are a number of home service pros that are unsure whether, is the cost of a website worth the value. How do you think through that calculus?
It wasn't really a question, let's be honest. At
Really?
one point, I was
Okay.
just like, I can't keep doing this all on my own. And I knew that I really wasn't showing up in the search engines like I wanted to.
Hmm.
And then I was going to go do this like SEO course thing. And I'm like, why am I spending my time about to do this course when like that's not a smart use of my time? Why don't I let somebody else do it that's really good at it, that already knows how to do it? And you guys had been referred to me by my electrician, who I absolutely love. He's up to date on all the latest technology, and we've kind of built our businesses like starting at the same time. And we're kind of like, hey, what software are you using? Hey, I'm using this. What are you? So it's like we're kind of leveling up together. And so he told me about you guys, and I'm like, all right, I got nothing to lose. So
Is he a customer of ours?
he is.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
What if you don't mind, what website provider were you with prior
I was
to?
using I was using Squarespace, and I was just trying to figure it out on my own. I mean, it's not very difficult to put it together, but it was just time consuming.
Got it. So something that you built yourself using one of their templates, but yeah, I imagine it took a lot more time given that you
Yeah.
had to do it all yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And like it didn't quite look right, and it just didn't have that polished professional look. It didn't have a lot of like the eye-catching videos and stuff that are on my website now. So it was okay, but it was just lacking a couple things.
Sure. Let's say you win the project of your dreams. Tell us about your process. Let's go from start to finish.
Okay, start to finish my dream project. So I always meet with the client in person, and I just want them to give me their dream wish list. And I write everything down. I take measurements. I come always to the session with ideas based on what I think they are trying to achieve. Really visually stunning, pictures to see like, are we on the same page? Am I in their head yet? So that usually, they can kind of point and go, oh, I really like that one. Okay, so I make a mental note of that. Then go back home. I say, okay, this is my process. So I have a design and proposal fee. And the design and proposal fee just covers exactly that. It's my time to research, to collect vendor quotes. Maybe I have to come back and do some job walks because maybe there's a complicated electrical issue and I need, my electrician to come out. So I charge for that time. And then at the end of that, I give them a proposal. So it's an informal proposal first, and it's itemized where every single little thing is documented. It's on there. It's a line item. They can see exactly how much that thing costs because, again, I'm giving them their wish list. And a lot of people have a wish list and then they want to winnow it down. So it's very easy at that point where everything's transparent to say, hey, you know what? I kind of want to take this out and save it for later. Okay, cool. My profit's already accounted for. My overhead's already accounted for. So taking that out doesn't hurt my bottom line at all. And then once we sign the contract, it's go time, and we start with D-Day, obviously, which is demo day, and you know, hit the ground running. So it's really fun.
Once you start on the design and the remodel, how long does that typically take?
It's hard to say. Like a garage gym, if it's everything's down to the studs, we have to maybe demo some portion of it. Could take like a month and a half just to, you know, we have to redo the flooring, insulate, get drywall up, paint, maybe do some custom work. The custom stuff is really what takes a lot of time. It's not necessarily like the general building stuff, it's just the extras. And a lot of my clients want like fun extras. So it starts to take some time to do the finish work and stuff like that.
And for the 45 days or so that you're on site, is it most of your day, just in the afternoons, just in the mornings? How do you balance working on the remodel with, you know, sourcing new jobs, thinking through other designs that you'll have to be working on in the future?
It's a struggle. I will admit that, but you know, I just try and be there enough each day. Like sometimes it's 10 hours, sometimes it's as little as like 4 or 5, but usually in the course of 1 week, I'm there probably 35 hours, give or take. And then you know, in the mornings, I try and run my errands. I try and do all of my emails. If someone has an estimate and they're local, because I'm in Costa Mesa, it's like, hey, it's literally like 10 minutes away. I'll go over there on my lunch, come back, you know? So it's like, I really try and be, you know, use my time wisely so that I'm not going here, there, everywhere and wasting the client's time. Cause like they're paying me and, you know, I want to produce something each day to where they walk in and they're like, oh, Callie changed that. Or like, oh, hey, she installed this, you know? So I want them to see progress every single day.
Great. At Titan Talks, we like to close with a rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Oh no. All right, let's do it.
What's the top challenge you're facing today?
I'm going to say help.
What does your company look like in 5 years or in 10 years?
I'm going to have a remodeling business that focuses on fitness spaces that's like an empire, and I can go nationwide.
Nationwide. Wow, that's great. Have you ever received tough client feedback, and how did you, at what stage in the process, and how did you handle that?
I'm really trying to think of something. I have not. I usually try and be very, very proactive with my communication. So I have not had that experience yet, let's say.
What's been the most surprising thing about running your own company?
I think just what everyone says, like you're always working on it. And they tell you that, but you don't want to believe them, but it's true. You're always working on your business.
And to close, would love to hear what's your proudest moment thus far at the helm of Beachside Remodeling?
I think in my very last job, it was the biggest job to date that I've ever worked on. And my proudest moment was like getting that first check where I thought like, no one's ever going to pay this. And it was like 40% down on like the very first day of construction. And I went to the bank and deposited it. And I was just like, holy crap, like this just happened, you know? It took 10 days to clear because it was a large amount. And my bank was like, you've never deposited this much before, but I digress. It was a great feeling.
Well, congratulations. You're certainly off to a terrific start. We're excited to continue to follow along here at Top Line Pro. And yeah, we
Thank
wish you
you.
all the best, Callie. Thanks so much for being a part of Titan Talks.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it.